was the music minister here. And so I know you guys are glad to see her. And she is the one in the band that gives me the most chill bumps. Because she can hit a note, right?
Yeah.
We have as this is African American History Month, we have a special selection that's going to lead us into the message. And it is, a change is going to come. to tinkle the tambourine sometimes with them. I am their #1 fan. And I'm the one that gets to talk a lot, so that's what we're going to do today. And I have to say, I'm usually a person of love and light and rainbows and unicorns and all that, and I say that I'm a teacher, not a preacher, so I always try to like lower your expectations right up front, whatever happens today. But I've been sitting over there praying for the Spirit to come and guide me, because this is one of a little bit more challenging subject matter when we're looking at our history. And so I think because of the month that we're in and how important education is, I could have been a minister or a teacher, and I said I want to be a teacher. And so I'm going to give you some facts today. We're looking at the history of race relations in unity itself. This afternoon, the program will be about the history of racial relations in South Carolina and in Georgia. And it's very uplifting, and I hope you're able to come. It is, you cannot leave that presentation without feeling so much respect for the people who have gone through these struggles and these challenges, and to realize the resilience that exists right there in front of us. So today, let us look at unity and what we've been up to. And I am one of those begin at the beginning. So we're going to start with Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and the times in which they were raised. In 1865, Missouri was a split state. It sent some people to the Union Army and some to the Confederate Army. It was all the way to 1865 with the 13th Federal Amendment that slavery was actually abolished. And in 1868, the 14th Amendment was to secure equal protection under the law. The reaction to that in Missouri was burning of churches and schools in the 1870s that drove most people of color from the state completely. In 1889, unity was formed through letters. Word got out of Myrtle Fillmore's healing letters and healing work that she had done on herself and that Charles was doing on himself. So the whole movement began with letter correspondence. People from all over the nation heard about this, and it was the time of science of mind and of the other kinds of healing modalities, and New Thought were burgeoning. And this idea of mixing Western religious tradition with Eastern religious tradition. The first publication that came out was We Wisdom in 1901. The first publication, and from then on, the standard cover for We Wisdom did include a black child on the cover, which was revolutionary at the time. They started the Unity School of Christianity, quote from Charles, "The object of the school is the redemption of all of the human race." In 1919, several study groups were formed for colored people and listed in the Unity magazine that came out weekly. In 1920, pictures show Charles and Myrtle with black students in their study groups. In 1920, a Unity Center for Black People opened in New York City. And in the 1920s, Unity Village is purchased and developed, then called Unity Farm. Here's where things start going awry. Unity Village is purchased. The developer advertised it as a highly restrictive neighborhood where discriminating people buy. You think of the term discriminating at that time was advantageous. How far we have come. There was a parkway named after this developer and a fountain named after this developer. Those names were removed in 2020. In 1927, Charles says, "We see no separation in color, in race, in sect, in creed, in anything. We are all one in the Spirit. We are all one." And yet there are rumors that he jokes about folks at church that are black. In 1928, an annual conference featured black speakers, and by 1930, several study groups and churches were led by unordained black ministers. In 1934, Unity states the Unity Ministers Association agrees to let black ministers join if they like. Also the same year, they announced that all black students will need to live in Kansas City and not on Unity property while they study. Meals would also be served separately. This is when Lowell Fillmore, Charles's son, becomes president, and you see things starting to change. The local paper asked Lowell about this, who was then the president of Unity, and he said, "We're feeling our way along. This is Missouri, and the Missouri people are not educated to the point as yet where they will accept this as fully integrated Negroes." And I think that really points to the importance of education. He knew it. He knew education was what was needed, and yet he still couldn't be the one that stepped forward. In 1937, licensed Unity teachers were listed in Unity publications, and it was decided they would no longer be labeled as colored in the book. In 1952, the first black ministers were ordained. It was 2 women. In 1953, a third black student was Reverend, became Dr. Johnny Coleman. She came to campus in a rainstorm while training, making her live out in Kansas City. She was soaked and frustrated and upset, and she said, "I can't do this anymore." She went into the cafeteria where the white students that were her peers were, and she told them of the struggle that it was and how heartbreaking it was. They all wrote a letter and went to the administration demanding that they provide housing for her. And they did. So in 1966, so this is 10 years later, she goes back to Unity campus and finds that again, they're not allowing the black students to live on campus. This is 1966, again, still under the direction of Charles Fillmore's son. In 1974, the Reverend Johnny Coleman leads Unity and founds a new branch of New Thought called Universal Foundation for Better Living, which goes worldwide. When asked, she said that she could no longer accept the blatant racism in Unity, and she took half of the black ministers with her. It still exists today. There's a church in North Charleston, in fact. In 1979, Reverend Ruth Mosley founded Unity Urban School to attract black ministers to serve in large cities. In fact, the CEO of Unity at this time, Jim Blake, received his ordination through Unity Urban School. There are many white people in that school now. The minister in Mount Pleasant is going through that ordination process. In 1987, Rosemary Fillmore, a granddaughter of the Fillmores, writes that it's difficult to believe that Unity would participate in the blatant mistreatment of Miss Johnny Coleman. In 1998, however, so this is 40 years past her ordination and training, she's invited to Unity Village to receive a proclamation of excellence. And in 2016, Unity Village holds a day of remembrance for her, honoring her courage, her accomplishments, and they actually acknowledged and apologized for her mistreatment 40 years before. Currently, Unity is fully embracing the work of Martin Luther King Jr., has made great strides in DEI, and leads many trainings throughout the movement about unconscious bias, microaggressions, privilege, and anti-racism. Today, if you go on the Unity website, it is full of opportunities to grow in this area. There are publications, there's videos available, there's articles on the website, all that support our brothers and sisters of the Black community. One you may want to order and have available, it's free of charge, is called The Gems of Wisdom for Black Leaders of New Thought. As I went through this history, and maybe for you, there's a lot of emotion that comes up. There's a lot of memories. There's a lot of wants and desires. It lays on our hearts heavily. And what is our own personal response? Remember, in unity, we are about living the truth that we know. We are practical Christianity. And so we have to look within and see where we are around these issues. For me, being a part of JAM in the afternoon that we're doing is my response in terms of being a part of educating people to a different view of where we are today and where we could be as brothers and sisters. I grew up a little, Eastern Kentucky, little holler kid in the hills of Kentucky. In my county, there were no people of color, of any color. There were no people from Asia, India, Africa. It was all white people. I don't know all the reasons for that, but I know that I had no experience until I went to college, and I was delighted with the people that I met from other cultures. In fact, I was drawn to learn more. I wanted to go to every church. I wanted to go to every spiritual group. I wanted to go to every club. It was like a little kid who'd been stuck in a box for 18 years and finally got out. And I was like, these people are really interesting people. I want to know them. I want to be their friends. What I did experience also, just from being present in that time, in the early 80s, was I saw a lot of prejudice that I did not understand. But in Eastern Kentucky, what they told me was, well, it doesn't affect us. We don't have folks here. It's not your problem. It's not your problem. It's not our problem. We didn't do it. And I looked back at my history and my ancestry, and we were poor sharecroppers, and so I had all these reasons to distance myself from any conflict within about how African Americans had been treated. But then I studied social work, and I took sociology classes, and I heard about the history of the South. I took a lot of courses about Southern history, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm getting this now. I'm understanding more about this now. And it took that education for me to wake up and to realize that things were wrong. Things were very wrong. And it wasn't until I was spiritually mature enough to look within that I understood the emotions that came along with it for me. And I don't know if you know Brene Brown's work on shame and guilt. And the difference between shame and guilt is in reaction to something you've done. And I couldn't find anything that I had done, personally, me, myself, right? I'm sure I did inadvertently do things that were not welcome, but I couldn't name it, I couldn't see it. But then when I understood shame is generational. Shame is you look back and say, my people did this, or my people did that. There's pride in what my people did. I'm a very strong mountain person who understands family and connection and kinship. And I'm very proud, especially of the women that came before me. But I also have shame that I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I married a man from Sumter, South Carolina, who was on family property from the 1700s. His family had been the doctors of the county and all that. And I knew they had stuff in their history. And so I would say, oh, that's you, that's not me. Oh, that's you, that's not me. Any way to distance myself, to not have to really feel other people's struggle, because it hurts. It hurts to really allow yourself to be open to other people's struggle and challenge. And then I did my ancestry back to the 1700s, the 1600s. Guess what? I found it. I found slave ownership. I was floored. Then I felt the full effect. Then I understood all the discussions I'd heard about privilege. I was still privileged from what had happened in the 16 and 1700s. I had to own that. I didn't understand until I looked at it myself, until it was me. And I submit to you, it's all of us. We all have a privilege that is ours, whether we've earned it or not. And so, like I said, I've been sitting over here praying that this can be well received, that your heart can be open to a new thought about this. And are you at a place spiritually that you can look at your part in things, even if it's from the past? And so Brene Brown says that shame is when you have a self-perception that separates you from the oneness, a self-perception of unworthiness, of being flawed. Those are the lies that we tell ourselves, because when we are in oneness with Spirit, we understand the Christ within us. And so shame can make us forget that, can make us become separate from each other and separate from God. Shame can make us feel unlovable. And some of the things that keep shame in place are secrecy, silence, and judgment. When we don't talk about this, and it lies as a secret, when we stay silent, when we see places in which we should align and advocate, and when we judge ourselves and when we judge others, we walk away with shame. Brene Brown says the antidote to shame is compassion. Buddhist, right? Compassion. All struggle, all challenge leads us to be able to offer empathy and compassion. Not only for those who are still in struggle today, but also for ourselves. To have that experience in consciousness where you can name it, acknowledge it, claim it, and say, yes, and I can work so it's not that way anymore. A change is going to come. And that's our part today in unity. The work is not done. But the first work is always, in anything, the work within. Growing our awareness, growing our acknowledgement, and learning to have compassion for all. So I encourage you to consider this work. And where is your place in it? You know, it's been 50 years since I took those first classes, and it takes time to uncover all the ways in which you might have privilege, or you may have a connection to struggle or challenge. It takes time, and it takes self-compassion and compassion for others. So I encourage you to consider doing this work. This is the month. If there's ever been a time, this is a month to consider this spiritual work. I close by remembering what Martin Luther King said. I think it's his most famous quote. The arc of moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And so we take that quote in and we ask ourselves, what is my part to do? What is mine to do? Because the work continues. When we're able to do that work and we meet in love and respect together and we see the truth in everyone, as Charles Fillmore said, Unity's work is for the salvation of the human race. Did he mean heaven? Maybe. But he also meant heaven here on earth. The way in which we live together and work together and share this life and what I call the 3D world together. And so we will move into a musical selection that I think enlivens us for that work, and hope you enjoy.
Well,